And welcome to Travel Tuesdays. My name is Tisha, and I'm going to be with you every week talking about different things concerning travel. It could be anything from travel tips to agent tips. I am looking to have special hosts each and every week. Sometimes we might have some special guests coming in to discuss about different travel tips. But some of the things that I hope to get out of doing this every week is to educate people on travel, help people out with various travel tips, traveling with kids, traveling as a foodie, traveling while on a diet, because I know for a lot of people that's always a concern. I'm looking to have special guests coming in as well. So far, I'm looking to have some people to represent cruise lines as well as people who are experts at travel, meaning that they have traveled to certain destinations frequently. They have they have gone on lots of cruises. They have they're just travelers. I'm also gonna do some blabs on Travel Tuesday that's basically going to be just about educating the travel agents that are out there. A lot of agents are new, they have questions and want some training. And of course, non-agents are welcome to step in and listen in because you might want to become an agent. I don't really have like a set format of what every conversation is going to be like. I'm just going to have a discussion topic and then we can just go from there. So if anybody that's on has any questions or wants to jump in and talk about travel with us, you're more than welcome to call in. How you doing over there, Christine? I know you're having technical difficulties.
Can you hear
Yes, I
me?
can hear you.
Yes. Am I froze?
But yeah, I know for right now, as I was saying earlier, it is a perfect time to book cruises. And I believe that's going to probably be the next week's topic, is to really delve into cruises, different cruise lines, as well as, concerns that people might have or misconceptions people might have when it comes to cruises. But if you are looking to book a cruise, right now is the best time to book. Get with your agent and start booking. There's a lot of deals that you may not be privy to see when you go through just a regular website. Sometimes there's things that's missing. But cruises are very fun. I'm actually going on my second cruise next year, and I can't wait. And if anyone has any questions, wants to jump in and start talking some of their experiences with travel, any travel tips you have. I know for my trip in Dominican Republic, I need to buy new luggage because the luggage that I have is good, but the way that the airline people tend to toss your luggage around, I would like something a little bit more durable, has good wheels, and I really want one that swivels only because I think it's like really cool and I don't have to worry about it flipping over, which I do often with my current one. Plus the one I have is too small. So it's like a short little trip size. I think we lost Christine again. She's having such technical difficulties being mobile. This app is not really good mobilely unless I think you're on an iPhone. You're welcome to jump in if you want. I have an open seat. You can come in, Diamond Life. Actually, I'm going to be looking to talk to you. I have a question about one of the blabs I have coming up. I think it's in 3 weeks that I wanted to know if you actually want to be a co-host for it. And it's going to be focused around Greeks and traveling, Diamond. So if you're interested, hit me on Facebook and let me know. I have 2 seats open so far. I think we may have lost Christine again. Yeah, I think though, I think something like when we talk about people who are traveling with kids, one of the best things I think to have is the stackable type luggage. So you have that one big one, and then you can put the smaller one on top. And if you have, I believe if you have kids that are maybe 5, 6, 7 years old, to get them a little cute little luggage for them to carry, because it teaches them to be responsible and it gives them something to look out for, instead of, oh, what's this and oh, what's that. They have to keep up with their luggage because their favorite little toys are inside of it. But that's just me. That's just my personal opinion on it. But I do need some luggage. And part of my problem is when it comes to buying luggage, it has to be cute. And I want something that's going to stand out. Most people buy the typical black or blue or red luggage, because when you get off the plane and you see the luggage coming out, those are the colors you see all the time. And you can't necessarily tie a little ribbon on it no more, because depending on what's going on and how your luggage is traveling, that ribbon can be gone. So I want something that's going to stand out. I do have my blue and white luggage. Not going to lie, I got quite a few of those, but I need some new sturdier ones. And I kind of want the ones that have the hard shell casing on it, because I think that'll be a little bit more durable. Hopefully Christine will come back. I think she lost signal again. She's having such bad technical difficulties tonight. For those of you that just came in, we're talking about luggage and different types of luggage and why we procrastinate buying luggage. But yeah, and definitely when you're buying your carry-on luggages, to make sure that you size it before you buy it, just because you want to make sure that if the purpose of this bag is for carry-on, you want it to fit in the carry-on, because you don't want to end up at the gate ready to board and they're like, oh, it doesn't fit and we have to check it. And if you fly on Spirit, that's about $100 just to check the bag under the plane. Even though I prefer Southwest because it's 2 free bags, so I never really have to worry about checking the bag. But those are some of the things that you want to look at, keep account of the dimensions for the bags. I do like the sets that come with the big bag, the little bag, and then like the laptop size or purse size bag that you can put it all together. Well, you could put the big one and the laptop size one. You can't. I don't think you could put the middle one on, but it just makes everything compact and easy. And with the laptop purse size one, you can use that as your carry-on bag for things that you might need while you're in flight or in transit. I know my mom, she likes to carry a decent sized bag just because she has this fear her luggage is going to get lost every single time. So she makes sure in her bag she has everything she needs to change into a set of clothes. She has some travel size deodorant in there, just little things she might need until she gets to her destination. I know one time she traveled with her swimsuit and towel because she said that's all she needs. Welcome back.
Okay.
I was just talking about some of the items that when you have a carry-on bag, not necessarily like your carry-on bag for the whole trip, but some people carry a bigger bag or a small carry-on while they're traveling, just in case their luggage gets lost. And I was discussing some of the items that I know my mom carries and some items that might be good to carry while you're in transit. You definitely I always do suggest that when you travel that you do print out a copy of your entire itinerary and carry your itinerary with you, just in case there's any kind of mishaps, concerns, or you forget where you're supposed to be, and so you don't drive to the wrong airport, as Miss Christine did one time, not paying attention to her itinerary. And if there's any kind of flight changes or anything like that, you need to know where to go. And if you're going international, you definitely want to make sure you keep your passport and ID at the ready, because you will be having to go through international check-ins quite often. And you don't want to accidentally lose that anywhere at all while you're traveling.
No, you don't. And you really want to make sure, just like you were saying about the itineraries, make sure, as far as a traveling tip, always double check your itineraries to make sure you're at the correct airport. Speaking from experience, rushing, we're all busy. We're all trying to get everything together to make sure we don't forget anything, especially when you're not the only one traveling. And we left out, we're running, and I never checked the itinerary again to verify the airport. And we were supposed to be at the Indianapolis airport, but because I didn't check, we drove to Louisville and had to turn around and drive all the way back to Indy and then end up being put on standby. So always, 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 if you got to double, triple, quadruple check the itineraries and make sure you're in the right place.
And to make sure that you leave on time. To make sure that you leave on time, because when I went to Atlanta a few weeks ago for a business trip, I got to the airport at 1:30 and my flight was at 3:30. And the Atlanta airport is a pretty big airport, but the check-in for security, the line was super long. There was people had been in line for over an hour, but there was one lady who just showed up after me and was having a fit because her plane was boarding, and everybody was like, "Why did you just get here?" And they was asking her, "When did you get here? How long you wait?" She goes, "Well, I just got here." And everybody was like, "Why would you come to the airport like 30 minutes before your flight is supposed to take off?" They tell you that if you're going international 3 hours, every other flight 2 hours, because it can take up to an hour or so to get through security, especially if you're going international, because you may have to go through customs. Now, if you're going international direct, say I'm in Baltimore area, so I can get a direct flight to say Punta Cana, which I'm doing. I have to go to customs. But if I was stopping in Miami, I would not have to go to customs or any kind of international or anything on my way out, because technically my plane's not going overseas. But once I got to Miami, guess who has to go through all of that stuff? And that can take time, because if you got to remember, it's not just your plane going through there. It's a lot of different people going through there. But yeah, she was running extremely late. There was one guy, though, I felt bad for him because he actually was in line for an hour and a half just trying to get through and get to the front. And you know what the problem was? They didn't have the bomb sniffing dogs there. Once the bomb sniffing dogs got there, the line went through really quickly. So you never know. You can get there 2 hours in advance and still be running to your gate.
Okay, that's good to know, since this is, our first time going, international. We know to get there at least 5 hours in advance. We know to be there early so we don't have to worry
Yeah, it
about
can
that.
be. I mean, going international, if you're doing a direct flight to international, it's a little bit more work during that first flight. But if you are going to do a connecting flight, like say for instance, we use Dominican Republic. I'm flying from the Maryland area and I check in at Miami. If I check into Miami at 3 o'clock and my international flight's at 4 o'clock, we got a problem because because they still have to get my bags from the first flight to the second flight. And because it's international, it has to go through extra screening to make sure there's nothing going on with it. And then I still have to go through the international ports. And generally, the international wing is way on its own side. So it takes a while to get there. And if you're at a big airport, that can take a while to get to. That's why I'm glad I'm going direct. But one of the things that you want to make sure, these are my things that I always carry whenever I get on any kind of plane. I don't care if I'm going 2 hours or 14 hours. I have my charger. I carry my tablet. I carry a book just in case I can't get the Wi-Fi or I'm just tired of watching movies, because if it's a long flight, it can get long. You get yourself a nice little travel pillow. If you don't have a travel pillow, you can also bring like a sweatshirt or something like that and use that as a pillow. But I also bring something like that, or a wrap, because it gets cold on those planes sometimes. Even if you close the little air vent, it still gets a little bit chilly, and this is so you can cover yourself, because airlines don't no longer provide pillows and blankets for you. You only get those in those long international, we're going to Europe type flights. But I always carry things like that. I keep a pen, a pad, and I have my itinerary with me at all times, just to make sure that I'm covered. And since the airports are so technically advanced now, they have charging ports all over the airport. And depending on who you're flying
Everywhere.
with, they might have like their own little section. Now, what I was amazed at, I fly out of DCA a lot because it's actually closer to me and the prices sometimes are better. I went into the DCA. I love me in the Southwest girl, so went to my Southwest terminal, and I see this bar, a bar, not a restaurant, like a
Oh,
full-fledged
yes.
bar with wine and everything set up. But the
But it,
coolest thing about it was you ordered your food off the iPad. They had complimentary iPads at every single station, so you can order your food, and then you can catch up on the news, get on Facebook. You can do whatever it is that you wanted to do, all with their complimentary iPad. Now the iPad don't move, so don't get no ideas. It's secure. I just thought that was great,
right.
especially for business people, because that way they don't have to worry about trying to connect their laptop to anything. If they're just doing general business work, they can do their little research, they can read their newspaper and things like that. I thought it was actually pretty cool personally. But a lot of airports are actually doing things like that. Airlines are getting a little bit more advanced, like I'm a Southwest girl, so I talk more about Southwest than anybody else. But Southwest, their airplanes are now getting Wi-Fi enabled. So if you're on a Wi-Fi enabled plane, you can log into the system and watch free TV shows, movies, and play games and stuff. Or you could pay $5 to watch a recent movie. Like I watched Minions while I flew to Atlanta, and it only cost me $5, and that's like 1/3 of the cost if I was actually going to the movie theater. I was like, I'll pay $5. You still there, Christine? Froze again. I think we may have lost Christine for the moment. Something I did learn was about buying airplane tickets. The myth is if you buy your ticket last minute, it's going to be cheaper. Per the report that I read, buying your ticket 7 days out before the date of your flight actually can cause up to $75 to $100 increase on your flight. The cost of your flight is actually better to buy your ticket. I think it's like 52 weeks or so in advance. I have to pull up that report again to read it. But because prices tend to fluctuate, it can get a little bit annoying. And I think the hardest part with people buying their flights is that they keep watching the flights, but you don't have the money to buy the ticket. I personally think it's kind of pointless to consistently look for the prices of flights when you're not ready to purchase, because you can look at a flight today and it'll consider flight's 3:30. You're like, great. And then you can go back to show somebody how great this flight is and how maybe y'all should get it, and the price has gone up. I know when I bought my flight to Atlanta, it was $97 each way. When I went back to look again for somebody else, that flight was gone. Not just the price, the flight was gone. Christine's trying to come back in again. But yeah, that's going to be the gist of every week. Like I said earlier, next week we're all going to talk about cruises. We're going to talk about the different types of cruise lines, some of the key points about them, because with cruises, there are different levels to cruises. As we know, Carnival, Royal Caribbean, Norwegian, Oceania, Princess, MSC. There's different types of levels when it comes to cruises. So next week, we're going to break down some of the different cruises, and hopefully we'll have somebody who's a cruising aficionado to come in and talk about their experiences on there. People can talk about or ask do's and don'ts and first time cruisers and things like that. That's probably going to be next week's conversation. Welcome back, Christine. Are you there? Yeah, she's mobile, so being mobile is tough with this program until we get an actual Android app. Yeah, I don't think that she can actually hear me, and her screen is completely frozen. So, but there's a lot of things when it comes to travel that we can actually talk about. I think people should travel, whether you travel just a few hours away or a few continents away. Travel is good. Travel opens up your mindset. It lets you see other cultures. You can experience different lifestyles. There's so much that you can learn from travel. And then the whole idea of just being out of your surroundings can be so relaxing. A lot of people nowadays are stressed out about so many things between life, money, relationships. Sometimes you just need to get away. So you can get away and go 2 hours, get a hotel room for the weekend, and go ahead and relax. Or you can go away for the weekend and do the same thing and get some sun, or if you're a snowbunny, go play in a ski lodge or something. And it's not as expensive as you think. Travel is really affordable if you are reasonable. See, what I mean by being reasonable is you can't request to go somewhere. Like, for instance, here's an example. You can't request for a family of 5 to go to New York City for 4 days and you only want to spend $500 per person. That's not reasonable. New York City is an expensive place to go. You have to factor in airline tickets. And even if you're going to drive, you still have to factor things like the hotel, your food, because there is no all-inclusive in New York. You might get breakfast, maybe. I'm from New York, so I know this. You might get breakfast at the hotel included, depending on where you are. And if you're trying to stay in like Soho, Times Square, uptown, downtown, touristy type places, it's going to cost you some money. Now, if you drive, you're going to have to pay for parking every single day at the hotel. Then you have to factor things in like transportation. How are you going to be getting around? Are you going to be taking the train every day? You have to factor in the cost of the Metro card for each person and the rides for that kind of aspect. Then you have to factor in food. There's so much great food in New York, and depending on what type of group you're going with will decide really what type of food that you'll be having. If you're going with younger kids or teenagers, you're really not going to be going to any kind of fancy locations. You're going to probably do a lot of street food and, Times Square, maybe food truck type situations, but it's going to add up. So, you want to look at things like that when you actually travel. Now, if you are going to a location that is all inclusive, and I know that is very popular, people want to go all inclusive and they want to go overseas and things like that, I'm going to let you know all inclusive is majority in the Caribbean islands, and now some places in South America are doing it, and as well as Mexico. They're also doing all inclusive. There is a location in Florida by Club Med. It's called the Sandpiper Resort. It is the only all-inclusive resort in the United States. It's located about 2 hours north of Miami, and like I said, it's ran by Club Med. And I believe it's a 4-star hotel. So if you want an all-inclusive experience, you can go ahead and travel right to Florida, and boom, all inclusive right there. Now, when it comes to traveling outside of the country, the misconception is you need a passport for everywhere you go. It's not necessarily true. If you're going to any of the U.S. Virgin Islands, you do not need a passport to go through there. It's highly suggested, but you don't necessarily need one to enter in and out because they're considered part of the United States. And this includes Puerto Rico as well. You don't need a passport to go there. The Virgin Islands are really nice. I've been to a couple of them. It's also, if you plan ahead and plan accordingly, you will be able to afford the trip. Now, one of the things that most people don't know when it comes to travel agents is that when you do use a travel agent, you also have the ability to do a payment plan that will include your flight. I know a lot of people are real big on searching on Travelocity and Expedia and Priceline, because they think that they're going to get a better deal. But when you work with a travel agent, you actually get a better value for your deal. Now, many of you may not know that when you actually book with those different online sites, that the hotel, the cruise line, the car company, they're actually paying those companies a commission. They get a commission for everything that gets booked on that site. Now, why would you pay somebody a commission that you don't know? You're doing it online. If you know somebody that is a travel agent, why not support them? Have them go ahead and do the research for you, because we're also time savers. So you don't have to sit there and go through a whole bunch of sites and try to plan and do all this, because we can help you do that. We can help you with the planning process, get everything set up for you. You can make your payment plans. We can add inclusions for you. We actually see deals that you don't see. And sometimes when you use, well, I'm not going to say sometimes, when you use those third-party sites, if you have an issue with anything that you booked, you can't call them. You can't. If you say, for instance, like, and I did this before back in the day, I booked a flight and I accidentally booked my return flight on the same day because I thought it had switched over to the other day, but it stayed on the same day. So I had me flying into the city and flying out like an hour later. So I was like, oh, I need to change that. It cost me $100 to change it, but you know who had to change it? The airline. When I called the third party, they would say, oh, well, there's nothing I can do for you. You need to call them directly. So even though I booked through them, there's nothing I can do. I know for a fact that if you was to book with me with certain suppliers, if you want to come back and say, hey, I need to change my flight, I can just change your flight. There is no fee involved so far when I've done this. There's no fee involved at all. And that's some of the things that you don't get when you use the online sites. And I just personally think, why not work with somebody who actually may know you or actually takes the time to get to know you? Because a good travel agent will get to know something about you before they start delving into booking your trip, because I think that's just the best way. Like, all my clients, I know something about them to understand what they want and what they don't want and things like that. Well, I want to thank everybody for coming through and saying hello, stopping through. I want to thank Christine for trying her best to come in and occupy a seat. I look forward to talking to everybody next week, and we're going to talk about cruises. So bring all of your cruise-related questions on down, and we're going to have some great agents that are going to step up and hopefully answer all your questions. Have a good night.